Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast, the world's number one indie game developer and sometimes composer interview podcast. Probably joining me this week, this is a real treat, is Enrique Martin, not the real Ricky Martin, I've been told. Otherwise known as Pentadrangle, the video game music composer behind such amazing games: Spicy Piggy, Voidrun, Nuclear Blaze, Lords of Exile, Roof Rage, and my personal favorite on this list, Cyber Shadow. Enrique, how's it going, buddy?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's pretty cool being here. Thanks.
Yeah, it's you know, when I think about my favorite games or games that really connect with me, sound is always a big part of it. Um, so I want to know, how does one get, what was what put you on this path to where one would say, I want to make games for a living? Where did you
Wow.
sort of stray and say, I want to make video game music for a living?
Well, I've been making music for I think that I would say for my entire life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I started making music with some bands that I played with. I'm a keyboard player. So I played keyboards for a metal band, something really dark and almost progressive metal band. And I also played keyboards for a pop band for a long time, for another pop band for a long time too. And then that lead me to a point where I needed to my life needed to have a little bit of a change, and I quit all the bands I was playing with, and suddenly I couldn't make music anymore. So I decided that I needed to keep doing music, and I started considering options like producing bands myself and making music just for myself. And then I was invited to a scuba diving trip with some friends, and I don't do scuba diving, so I had a lot of time. And by then I was playing Shovel Knight in the Nintendo 3DS, and I was listening to the wonderful soundtrack by Jake Kaufman. And I said to myself, I I mean, I can't do chiptune music this good,
Mm-hmm.
but I could definitely do something decent, I think. And when I came back to my city, I started making a portfolio and started talking to developers via Twitter. And I found my first gigs via Twitter, and I started making music for video games, and that's more or less it.
So we gotta circle back, because that's sort of amazing how you found yourself playing Shovel Knight, which is a yacht club game,
Yeah,
and fast forward how many years
yeah.
later you're doing the
Not too many years later,
soundtrack.
actually. Not too many years later.
So
Like 2 or 3 years later.
yeah, that's crazy. And then you're doing Cyber Shadow's entire like 66 track soundtrack,
Yeah.
a game published. I think it was the first game that Yakub published. Like they were just doing their own thing, like
I
just
think
developing games, and this
I
was their
think that
first.
I think that they have published before Mighty Striker Gunvolt or something like that. I'm not
Okay,
really
all
sure
right.
about that uh, data. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. So
But either way, now what was
yeah,
that? What was that feeling like? Like knowing that the the company that made a game with a really kick-ass soundtrack
yeah, that
inspired you,
really
and then
inspired me somehow to start doing this. Yeah, it was a pretty surreal, and actually in the beginning I was when Arne, the developer, Arne Hansiker, the developer
yes,
of Cyber Shadow, when he reached the agreement with Yacht Club Games, I was told that actually the very own Jake Kaufman would produce the soundtrack of the game. That wasn't entirely done by them because Yacht Club Games entered in the equation, like I think that it was like in the third or fourth year of development of the game, and the soundtrack wasn't at all completed by then. So I was told that Jake was gonna produce the music, and actually, the only thing that he produced was the first trailer music, because he said it's good as it is. Why I'm gonna produce something that is okay? So he decided to leave the soundtrack as it was because he liked it, and that was, I think, that the best compliment that I ever got in my entire life. I'm a Jake Kaufman super fanboy, and being told this was like going to heaven.
Why not just stop at that point? Yeah, I feel like, okay, I've done it.
Yeah, but I thought I've done it. I did it, but then I started collaborating with Yuzo Koshiro in the next game. So who knows what's gonna come next?
Now, for those who don't know who that is, because that, like me, for example, what is the who is that, and why is that collaboration important?
Who's Yuzo Koshiro? Yuzo Koshiro is the composer behind the soundtracks of Streets of Rage,
Okay.
among many others. He's a super good Japanese chiptune Japanese composer, and we'll be collaborating with him in the soundtrack of Lords of Exile that is being produced by now.
So what is working with a yacht club sort of developer? What does that do for your career? Like, 'cause this began for you as a curiosity. You're taking your musical experience, your progressive dark metal band background, and bringing it into chip tunes for the first time, thinking I could create something that's on the same level.
I mean, I was when I first talked with Arne, I told him, well, that's what I have done till now. I think that I could do some really good music for your game because I'm a really I really like the games you are being inspired by when you're doing Cyber Shadow, like I don't know, Blue Shadow or all the Shadow Warriors franchise, and I really love that music, and I could do something more or less similar with maybe not following all the restrictions, but of the original hardware. But I think that I could do something cool. And he said, okay, so I can send you a video of a recording of the first level. That was the only thing that had been done by them. And so you can play some music over it and record it, and you can show me. So I really dug into the thing. I tried a lot of stuff, and I composed several tracks for that video he sent me, and I sent him the thing, and he liked it. And anything in that video ended up being in the final version of the game. But anyway, that started that was the beginning point of our collaboration. And when Yacht Club Games came in, it was like, well, this game is definitely gonna get a lot of exposure, and it helped both of us and the game itself, definitely.
Do you find yourself in that same position where you're reaching out to developers to like potentially work on their soundtracks, or is it now more of you're a bit of a name now in this sphere, and folks are reaching out to you like, hey, you want to work with me on this project that I'm
I
putting
must
together?
confess, that I'm not looking for gigs anymore
Mm.
because I'm really overwhelmed with the amount of work I got from Pancake Delicieux.
Yeah, another friend of the show. Great.
Yeah.
Such a
So
great guy.
releasing one game and composing one soundtrack every month is really time demanding. It's for me, it's like a part job. I have another job, so I don't have the time for I almost don't have the time for other projects. So I'm not
Hmm.
looking for anything else. I get some proposals from time to time, but no, I try to be selective.
Yeah, that's because they do one game a month, so you're doing the soundtrack for every game every single month, I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, that's it, and it's really really time demanding.
Are you like officially part? Is it a contract you have? Like, let's say you've committed yourself
Yeah,
to do all of their games, like
yeah, it's
until the end of time. When does
we
that
are a
stop for
studio.
you?
I
Oh, so you're part of the studio.
yeah, I'm like
Okay,
the in-house composer. Yeah,
got it.
yeah, it's pretty cool what we're doing. I think that it's a new concept, and it's doing really well also. So I'm pretty happy with with the job I'm doing for Pancake.
I feel like it's really easy to try to imitate what a retro chiptune soundtrack should sound like, but your compositions feel very authentic, like they were pulled from the 80s and 90s of gaming. Where do you get your inspiration from when you're putting a track together?
Well, that depends on the game I'm composing for.
Mm-hmm.
I try I try to find similar games, especially when they are retro looking games. I try, for instance, for Cyber Shadow, I was clearly inspired by the soundtrack of the games I told before, also by Mega Man games, and
Right.
because that's what I thought that the game needed. So I always try not to just imitate maybe the sound palette, but and even the structures and the how would I say it, the relevance of the melody in for instance in Cyber Shadow is I'm always trying to create hooks, recognizable hooks and stuff that sticks with you after you leave the game. So yeah, for that game for instance it was like that, but for other games that totally depends on the game. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, for a game like Shotgun King, the one of the last games
Mm-hmm.
of Pancake Delicieux. It's a chess game. You need to think. It's retro looking, but I didn't stuck to any restrictions concerning the sound palette. So I decided to make something that goes with you where you're playing, that doesn't get a lot of attention. So less focus on the melody, more focused on the soundscape and the general, like creating some kind of aura that goes with you while you're playing. Well, that depends a little bit on the game.
How do you know when a hook is like a hook? Like when you know that a track, when you've nailed it. Because there's times when I'm playing, like again, Cyber Shadow, and the music is just so well done, and it hits you
Thanks.
in that. Yeah, it's again, it's one of the best parts of the game. I feel like it has the gameplay, but the sound design for a game like that is as equally important as how the game works and functions and performs. Because if that element wasn't at that same level of polish, it would ruin an otherwise amazing experience. Because it's all about, because it's like a food and wine pairing,
Yeah,
music
totally.
and gameplay.
Yeah, in that kind of games, I think that you could do a more modern soundtrack, like, with that kind of uh, not really ear demanding music, that just is over there with some pads and some stuff. But I think that when you're playing a game like Cyber Shadow, you want to be carried on by bangers. So that's what I try to do music that helps you beating an incredibly hard game, and that keeps you wanting to go on, which is, I mean, I know that the game is frustrating for some people sometimes because it's really hard, and I wanted the music to motivate you to continue playing. And that's why the beginning of all the tracks are like, they build in a specific way almost every one of the tracks, and they, at least I tried to help the player and to motivate the player. And when do I know that I have a good hook? Maybe when I turn off the computer and I keep on whistling it. I
There
don't
it
know.
is.
I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of that when I'm in the shower and I keep uh, whistling it. Yeah, maybe.
I think it's a mark of a good soundtrack when it really sticks, because I can think back to playing games like Metroid and the early Mega Man games
Yeah,
and Super Mario Brothers, and
definitely. It was in my mind to create, at least to try creating earworms. Yeah.
but you have, in
Well,
some respects you have. 'Cause I feel like every now and then, like I get
I
that,
feel happy.
yeah, I get that little boss theme like just stuck in my head, and then there's the whole day. It just kind of goes from there.
That's what I wanted. So it's a sign that I probably succeeded.
Do you, being on this side, on the sound design side, and is watching, because you're so far removed from the actual game development portion. That's like the other part of the team. Would you ever cross that line?
I try to
Oh, you
as much as
tried. Oh, okay.
as much as possible. If they let me, I try to interfere with the development process as much as I can, and that means trying to QA,
Mhm.
to give my my opinion about everything, making giving ideas, and for instance, for Cyber Shadow, we were talking all the time during the development, Arne and I. We talked all the time, and we shared a lot of stuff. And I told him a lot of crazy ideas. Some of them ended up being in the game. Some of others didn't, and we keep on doing it. And for the rest of the people I've worked with, that depends a lot on the developer. There are developers that are more closed and that decide to express their vision of the game, and they just want your music to be played. And
Right.
some others that listen to you, and they give you room for giving your ideas. I'm not a game designer, so all my ideas are based on my experience as a player. And sometimes I'm probably right, and many others I'm wrong. But at least I like being a part of the process.
Well, what's one of the craziest ideas that was too crazy?
I I don't know. Maybe one of the bold decisions was to make music for Shotgun King while Benjamin Soule, who is the main developer, was doing the game for the last game jam. At the beginning, the game was gonna be presented by himself as a solo developer,
Mhm.
and I saw what he was doing, and I told him, dude, we need music for this because it's going to be great, and I think that it could be great, and I'd love to make music for it. And he told me it's really tight. We don't really have a lot of time. You have a lot of stuff to do. Are you sure? And I said, okay, yeah, I'm sure. And you know, I made the music. We presented the game as a game by Pancake Delicieux, and I think that helped a lot the studio to continue growing up. I think that it was a good idea to do that.
Not even growing back, it put you on the map because I haven't even heard of you guys until
Yeah,
like I knew about you and your career,
yeah.
but like as far as Punkcake goes and what they do, like this is my first exposure to any of their development, and they have scores of games in their back catalog. You know, because they do this every single month for I'm not even sure how long they've been doing this for.
It's going to
Um,
be for a year.
oh
I think
God,
that next month we will be doing that for a year. Yeah. So yeah,
what is that like to have to develop? I mean, is it just small? Is it just smaller soundtracks you're putting together on
yeah,
such like
definitely.
yeah?
I can't compose 66 tracks in 1 month. That's that's for sure. That took me like 6 years to make 6 years to make the music for Cyber Shadow. So it definitely needs to be more reduced in size and number. But it helped me a lot to be more, to take decisions more quickly and to compose more in a faster way, because I I've been able to spend like 1 month and a half or 2 months in a single track for Cyber Shadow, and then doing this and doing that and rethinking the whole thing and erasing this part because I loved it in the beginning, but after 125 hearings, I hate it. And you know, and when you have a month for doing an entire soundtrack, you can do that. So that helped me beating that part of myself. And it was in if it was only for that, I think that it would be a really good idea to join the studio.
What you mentioned collaborations before. What do you think are some of your dream collaborations?
I don't know. I'd like to do some one, at least one soundtrack with adaptative music, because I'm not used to do that, and I would like to. I would love to. I'd love to do that. More modern soundtracks. Modern in like in they usually do in AAA games, that you play adaptative music and that kind of stuff, and you use some tools like like well, all the modern tools that are used to create those soundtracks. So yeah, I'd like to make that kind of music.
I mean, is there any reason why you're not? Are you looking into that right now? Like, as a potential like avenue, or you're locked into?
It's I really don't have the time to go finding projects. That's
Mm-hmm.
my problem. And even if I found them, I don't know if I would have the time to do that. So in at some point, I'll probably have to choose between my current job and making music. So for now, the time, I think that it hasn't arrived, but it will probably, I'll probably get to that at some point.
What are some of the pitfalls or challenges as a video game sound composer? We hear about a lot about like game design and bugs, things that are very nested in numbers and just code and coding a game. What challenges do you face when you're putting together a track or a
Uh,
soundtrack for a game?
I mean, I think that the first thing you need to do is try to nail the needs of the game. Uh, I try to talk with the developers about what they think they need for the game and
Mm.
what they think they want for the game, and then I usually talk them about what I think the game would benefit from in
Oh,
concerning
interesting.
music.
Hmm.
There are some times that a developer thinks that some kind of music would fit his or her project, and it sometimes they nail the what they want, but some other times they don't, and they think that the game music should be like, for instance, like this other game's
Hmm.
music, uh, but sometimes they are not considering that maybe another music in another mood or another sound palette or etc. Would fit better for their project. So the first part of the job of a composer is trying to define the general sound aura of the game, the palette that you're going to use, the way the music would be played in the game, the way that music would be, uh, how music would sound, when it would sound, the scope of the soundtrack, that kind of stuff. The all the amount of things that you need to define at the very beginning of the project. And I think that that's crucial. That's the most important, one of the most important parts of the composition process is that very first part. And then there are, you know, definitely you can find many pitfalls, but even if you think that you have defined correctly defined the scope of the music and the palette and the mood and the idea of the music, you can fail catastrophically at it. So it has happened to me to think that I've really that I defined very well that part, and then finding out that the first track I do is rejected, and they tell me that it's not at all what they were looking for. So that usually puts me in a position where I need to rethink the whole thing,
Hmm.
and well, but that happens, and I need to, as a composer, you need to work in the benefit of the game and also follow a little bit the instructions of the development teams. So yeah, that's a part of the job. So you need to do. I think that I did like, I don't know how many, but like 7 complete different versions of the first track for Cyber Shadow,
Oh my
and
god.
each time I was told that, yeah, it's fine, but not for this, not for the first level. The first level needs to be really pumping, and then I said, dude, okay, so let's do
You got some
something
patience,
completely
man.
different. And
After like 7 or 8 tries.
yeah, I because I was. Uh, I used a motif in the first versions. I used a motif that was gonna be the motif of Shadow, of the main character,
Right.
and uh, I wanted to put that motif in the stage 1 track, and it just didn't fit. And I
Hmm.
was obsessed about it, and I wanted it to be the leitmotif of the game, and it ended up being in the rest of the game in many parts, that main motif, but not in the stage 1 track, which is, I think that it's the track that finally ended up being in the game is pretty cool, but it didn't have anything to see with the first version of the track. So
Yeah.
yeah, that happens, you know.
Yeah, that's an instance. I feel like, you know, you would think that the composer or the musician just has a better understanding of what belongs where in a game in a sense, but to your
Not
point,
really,
yeah.
not really, not really. There are several times that, most of the times, the development team is right about it, because you can be like composing really cool tracks and that you like, but they don't fit in the action, especially if you don't have, the composer doesn't have the opportunity of playing the game and
Mhm.
seeing what the pace is and how the game works in terms of, enemy placement and of all of that kind of stuff.
Right, right,
And
right.
you can be making very good tracks in abstract, in general, but not for that part of the game. And that's something that happens to me a lot with Pancake Delicia, where I usually get to play. I get some gifs and some screenshots of the game, and I've been told how the game works and how the game is going to work, but I don't have the opportunity of playing the game till very late in the development process, because they are also doing the game in 1 month, and things don't get together till really late usually. So yes, several times I need to reconsider things at the last moment, and yeah, it's yeah, it's the tough part of the composing process.
Well, listen, at least it's not they want to use the tracks that they don't like for the intro stage. They're not saying we don't want this at all in the game. That would be a
Yeah,
thing.
that happened. That even happened. Yeah, and sometimes I compose a track that they don't like for that game, but is reused and is recycled for another later game.
Oh, that's
So
kind of neat. It's like you're getting ahead of the work in a sense. It's like, all right,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
here's
that
10 tracks
happened
we didn't
for
like. Use it
yeah
for our
that
next
happened
project.
for instance with one of the soundtracks that I'm speaking about Pancake Delicious games. One of the soundtracks that took me that was harder for me to compose was the one for Damocles Gaze. I made several test tracks that were rejected till I found what Remy wanted for the game, and one of those tracks that I found that was really cool ended up being the main track for Ecstatic. That is a later game that Benjamin Soulet made for the Pancake Delicieux project. So yeah, why not recycling tracks for later? Yeah.
How do you develop a soundtrack for a game where you play as a firefighter?
Well, first of all, by I then for that game I did have the chance of playing the game before I started making music for it, which was really cool for me, and it never happened till then. So yeah, it was a really cool experience working with Sébastien Benard, and yeah, I wanted to do something different for that game. I didn't want to stick to chiptune. I was asked to make a chiptune soundtrack. That's one of the cases where I tried to explain the developer that we could probably try something in between chiptune and
Oh,
other styles.
interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and he was like, okay, let's try. And I composed, I don't remember which one was the test track for Nuclear Blaze, but yeah, it definitely had some guitars going on, some real
Yeah,
guitars going
yeah.
on, and
All right, so you're already starting to branch out a little bit of like what you're used to doing then,
yeah,
in
I
a
tried
sense.
to make a more organic sounding thing, introducing putting some realistic strings, and yeah, especially the soundtrack for Nuclear Blaze has a lot of guitars, of both electric guitars and acoustic guitars, and I think that they fit the thing, even if I over that guitars are being played synths and chip tune, really chip tuned sound waves. And I think it's a good pairing. Yeah, it was really fun to make the music for Nuclear Blaze. It was something different for me back then, and I tried to make something similar to Nuclear Blaze with the Ratchet's Den, which is also a Pancake Delicious release. And if you listen carefully, you will find a lot of similar stuff between the two soundtracks, because they were done in the same moment, at the same time. And I shared some ideas between the two things, and especially the soundscape of the whole thing.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, and again, just working with some of the best talent, Nuclear Blaze, developer of Dead Cells. So it just seems like for a career path that you just thought to yourself on a whim, I could probably do this. You stumbled into some really like
yeah,
high
I
caliber talent.
that's
That's a
where,
rarity in this industry.
and it's really fun because I'm Spanish, but I ended up working with a lot of French
Yeah,
developers.
I know. Yeah, it's so
But like a
fascinating.
lot, absurdly a lot of French developers. I happen to speak French because of my background, but I haven't worked with them because I speak French. It began with the developer of Roof Rage, and then uh, happily he ended up working in the studio that is doing Dead Cells right now, which
Mhm.
is pretty incredible and weird. And then I worked with Benjamin Soulet with the soundtrack of Voidrun, which actually was one of the founders of Motion Twin, the
Right, right.
the
Yeah.
studio behind Dead Cells. And then I figured, I think that Benjamin maybe spoke with Sebastian about me, and when I found out about Nuclear Blaze, and I talked with Sebastian, he was like, okay, you did the music for Void Run. He That was done by Benjamin, what was a colleague of mine back in the Motion Twin days. And you know it's really weird how everything built up. But yeah. And answering to your question, Sebastian is a really really amazing developer that does really incredible things, like building a whole amazing toolkit for creating for designing levels. And he's more than just a level designer and a game designer. He does a lot of facets, a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is I think that it's beyond just making games. And uh, especially after he finished and we released Nuclear Blaze, we got a lot of comments saying that the game was a little bit short. And then he said like, okay, hold my beer. And he doubled, he made a free update and like doubled the length of the game, and released an update called Hold My Beer. And it's
So
really,
silly.
that kind of guy is really really cool guy.
I mean, the kind of guy that makes a game because his kid likes firefighters.
Yeah, that's
That's
also
like a
a
true
fun
that's like
a
a
fun
true
part.
genuine human being. They're in
Yeah,
it for more than just like
yeah,
the glory of being like a successful indie game developer. Because he could have just done Dead Cells forever,
yeah,
and that was it.
yeah, definitely,
He could
definitely.
have done like 1,000 Dead Cells DLC, and then like
Yeah,
eventually done
well,
Dead Cells 2 at
they're
some point.
they're actually doing it, which
Yeah,
is
they
which
are.
is
Yeah,
which is pretty good, because the game, a game like that, it really never ends, so you can play it forever. And
I don't think they want it to end. This is it.
I don't know. I keep getting fun when I play it, so why not?
All right, sir. Let's pivot to some rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
try to answer.
I'm curious. What video game soundtrack? Name me a soundtrack that really impressed you recently.
Recently,
Yeah.
I've been playing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja
Oh
Turtles
boy.
game, the Shredder's Revenge,
Hell yeah.
and it's like, oh my god, this, T. Lopez is my new chiptune. Well, not just chiptune, but like my new music hero. He has everything a game composer needs to have, and he does a banger after a banger, and he keeps doing it after Sonic Mania and all the projects he is in are gold, and it's amazing. The soundtrack he did for the Shredder's Revenge, for this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game is really something. It's really an outstanding, how he cares about the original Super Nintendo games motifs, and
Hmm.
the melodies of the games, how he preserves preserves those motifs and those melodies, and the way he uses the sound palette, and how he builds the tracks, and how he gets amazing collaborations. So there are even tracks with vocals, and it's
Yeah, those
amazing,
vocal tracks were really good too. I
really
was
good.
surprised how fun those were. I was like,
And
okay.
people, and amazing guitar players doing crazy solos, and
Hmm.
it's, I mean, top level.
If you could pick a retro IP like a Ninja Turtles to work on, what IP would that be?
That's a good one. I don't know. Both, some of my favorite games have been retaken recently, like the Streets of Rage
Yeah, that came back recently.
saga. Yeah,
Hmm.
they came back recently. So I don't know. I maybe would say like Golden Axe.
Oh yeah, you like
That
your
is
beat 'em
it.
ups, don't you? I'm
Yeah, I do.
between
Yeah.
Turtles, Streets of Rage, and Golden
Why do you
Axe.
say that? Yeah, yeah. I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah.
All right. I may know the answer to this, but let's see. If you could pick a game that you could erase from your memory
Oh.
and re-experience again for the first time,
Oh.
what game would that be?
Oh, that's a good one. I would probably fail at saying at answering this question, or I'll probably remember another one, but I'd probably say, for my recent experience, Ori and the Will of Wisps.
That's a good game.
I loved that much that game that I would like to replay it as if I never have done it before. Yeah,
Hmm.
or maybe Hollow Knight too. Yeah,
Yeah, see, those are the kind of games where you have like this perfect marriage of
of
art
everything.
design,
Yeah, of
gameplay,
everything.
and sound design. It just
Definitely.
everything is like on all cylinders firing off.
Yeah,
I want to play some of that
but
later.
it's a really
Definitely.
good question.
There's a
I
lot.
pro-
I mean,
no,
you've been
there's a
playing
lot of,
games as long as I have. I imagine you go way back to like
yeah, yeah,
Nintendo days.
yeah, definitely. I don't know. Maybe also Civilization 2. If
Oh,
I
interesting.
Yeah, if I get really back into the day, yeah, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
The phone rings in your house at a very late hour, and your kiddo picks it up, and on the phone is a police officer, and they say, "Hey, kiddo, your dad's been arrested. What crime did you commit?"
I don't know. I don't know. Like going too fast in the highway or something like that. Even if I'm really,
Oh, well, speed
I
demon,
don't.
are you?
I no, I'm not. But I don't know what to say.
Do you feel like you want to go?
There
Do
is
you
really
want
a
to run
bad
all the red
thing.
lights? Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because of that. Who knows?
Hmm.
Who knows that what crime did I commit?
Hmm. All right, and the last question I'm going to ask you. It's a very difficult question, but I feel it's gonna it's gonna essentially let me know if I should talk to you ever again when this podcast is over.
Okay, I'll try to respond correctly.
Well, there was a correct answer. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes.
It's a yes for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
can you?
Can
You?
are you gonna invite me again?
Of course, I'll always invite you back because
Okay. Yes.
your poor taste in food notwithstanding, you make great game soundtracks. So I can't write you off because of your pizza topping choices. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I like pineapple on pizza. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm
well,
one of those guys.
I guess yeah. I mean that is a type of guy that
Yeah,
exists that
yeah,
likes pineapple on pizza. You would think like the Spanish side of you and the French would be just you think of really good cuisine. I
yeah. We
feel
do.
like it goes against what good food is
Ah,
supposed to be.
well, I think that probably an Italian would be mad about
True,
that
true, true. But
decision
you're right
too.
there. It's like, I'm Greek.
Yeah,
We're all in the same gene pool. It's all the
yeah,
same. It's all the same.
yeah.
Go from the same
Definitely.
place.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky Martin, thank you. It's
You're welcome.
been a lot of fun talking to you this week. I learned
Same.
a lot about like, I feel like no pun, but you are one of the unsung heroes, I feel, of game design because
Oh, really? Thank you.
we put a lot of stress on what we can see. Like, does the game look a certain way? Does it play a certain way? And I feel like when it comes to the score and the soundtrack, most of the times, even like a really good soundtrack can sort of be forgotten. It has to be very intense and overperforming to really make an impact. Um, and to be in the discussion in a sense.
Mhm.
But thank you for making the games I love sound so amazing.
Thanks for playing them and for listening to them.
What's coming down the pipeline this month from Punkcake Delicio?
Oh, it's a really overscoped game that
Oh,
Remy is doing,
Remy
and
is insane.
yeah, Remy is usually he does overscope a little bit,
They are
and this
totally
one is
nuts.
crazily overscoped, and it's like an arcanoid where the pad moves in a circle. So you have a ball, which is actually the moon, and you need to go hitting that ball and killing the enemies that appear in the center of the circle. And it's like a roguelike, and you get perks and skills and stuff, and you can
Interesting.
go to shop and buy things, and you get through levels and fight bosses, and it's
Oh,
really fun.
I love
Really
that.
fun. It's
Okay.
really beautiful game. He's well, I think that's one of the best looking games that Remy has done, and it also has a pretty cool soundtrack, I think, and I can't wait for it to be released.
All right.
And we don't really have a name, an official name right now, but it's going to be released really soon in the following days, and I think that's going to be great.
All right. Looking forward to that. Okay. Uh well, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you, all the work you've done. Where can our listeners find out more about you? Where can they follow you? Give us your social media stuff.
Okay, I'm at Pentadrangle in Twitter and in almost everything. Pentadrangle.bandcamp.com for my music. I also have a Facebook that I don't really like update a lot. That is also like Pentadrangle whatever in Facebook, because I'm a little bit out of Facebook right now. And yeah, I especially move in Twitter. So if you wanna, if somebody wants to ask me anything or whatever, I'd be happy to respond. And yeah, that's it.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, listeners. Um, yeah, support your indie games, support your indie game soundtrack composers. They do great work. Um, And as always, please be excellent to each other.